The truth they don't want you to see. Hidden secrets about the Anunnaki. That's right, folks, the Anunnaki. It's going to be a great show. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
This may disturb you, but you need to watch this.
I look over to my right, and there is a literal lake of fire. And there are people that are in this lake of fire. They're just burning, and they're burning and screaming, and some of them are lifting up their hands to try to get out of the lake of fire, and I could literally see the flesh melting off of their hands. I could see the flesh melting off of their faces, their eyeballs popping from the intense heat. And I also saw some people that had fully burned already. All of their flesh had already burned off, and their flesh was regenerating just to burn off and for them to go through it again. I mean, it was the scariest, most terrifying thing I could ever see.
If you want to make sure that you're going to heaven, watch the video pinned below or in the bio, and make sure to hit the follow and subscribe button for more.
This is King. He is the only way to heaven.
Vampires that reach a certain age will sometimes undergo a metamorphosis into a stranger, deeper version of the creatures, referred to by most as elders, likely becoming closer to the primeval origins of the curse. I believe that Albin Grau designed the character Count Orlok after witnessing an elder himself. Through this depiction, more accurate portrayals of the most powerful elder vampires have bled into numerous films and television shows. The descriptions of elders in the journals of my ancestor Harold Oldry Jr. paint them as dramatic exaggerations of their younger counterparts. While they display incredible supernatural abilities and need to feed less frequently, they are also the source of most popularly believed vampire weaknesses, including a much stronger aversion to true faith objects, prayer, and occult tools. They have no tolerance for sunlight, being utterly destroyed by it. They make up for all this, however, in their seeming inability to permanently die. Through unknown means, they return to the world again and again, more monstrous with each passing. It is written that fallen vampires made into haunters by their masters will take on elder features as well, much like the one seen in my home. Elders were also surrounded by paranormal activity. The most terrifying vampires. See here the photo of one, once held in St. George's.
I was under the understanding that there was a separate clan, the Nosferatu, and not a potential transformation of vampires. You know what I'm saying?
Get to World War III, do you think the ETs are going to step in? Because they don't want nuclear war, right? That affects their timelines too.
Oh, yeah. No, the extraterrestrials, the Galactic Federation will 100% stop any sort of nuclear launches. Like, it can't happen.
It affects everything.
It affects everything. It affects the entire universe.
I've heard stories of nuclear bases, like aliens will show up and like shut it off.
Yeah, and so this is why we do have real extraterrestrial orbs and things hovering around military bases. So it's not to say that every footage recently is Project Bluebeam, but this is part of the confusion.
Yeah.
So they are around, and they're more around than ever before because they're trying to get a hold of and stop a lot of the agendas that are playing out.
When you were at the recent Galactic Federation meeting, what was the overall vibes you were getting from the ETs?
The overall vibe is that things are really ramping up on planet Earth. It'd be a crazy season.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the elites are scared. They're running out of resources. They're running out of time, and people are starting to really wake up and question things. That's all we need is consciousness. All we need is just to question the basis of this reality and then to push back on what doesn't feel right.
We all need Jesus. Bow now and ask for his guidance.
When we describe the reptilians as shapeshifters, you might think of a creature that physically changes its shape, like Odo from Star Trek, Mystique from Marvel Comics, or Tonks from Harry Potter. Reptilians don't do this. They actually always look like themselves. What they do is manipulate the human brain to perceive them differently. The source of the reptilians' power is their ability to alter our perception of reality. And they don't do this with telepathy. They do this with technology. According to David Icke, the moon is not only a spacecraft, but also a holographic projection device. The broadcasts from the moon warp our reality, or at least our perception of reality. There's what's known as a frequency embargo around the Earth.
Wait. Who enforces this embargo?
Well, there's a bunch of alien races who are part of a galactic federation, and they keep an eye on the reptilians, but it's a whole thing.
Go on, I got time.
No, it needs its own video.
You got me all excited. This is a bunch of bullshit.
There is much more to reality than we can perceive with our senses. And the human brain is quite capable of experiencing the true universe. In fact, it was specifically designed to do so. But the frequencies that would allow us to see the real world are being blocked. Instead, we're locked into the simple three-dimensional existence, but there is much more being withheld from us. If you believe in simulation theory, then these beings are the creators of the simulation. If you're religious, then these beings are demons or jinn.
I'll read the 1998 interviews with Dr. Neruda.
I can tell you, you'll see those files that I shared with you. They did find stuff. There was an incident in October of 1982 over an ICBM base where UFOs popped up, was observed over this base where the missiles are pointed at us, United States. These UFOs perform incredible maneuvers. They split apart, they fuse back together, they'd appear and disappear. And right at the end of this 4-hour period, the launch control codes for the ICBMs lit up. Something entered the correct codes. The missiles were fired up and ready to launch, and they could not shut it down. The Russian officers were panicking. The UFOs they disappeared. The launch control system goes back to normal. Colonel Sokolov and his team came in, took the thing apart, could not figure out what it was. It wasn't a power surge or EMPs or some of the baloney excuses that our country has given for similar events involving our nuclear missiles. They thought it was a message from wherever the UFOs were from. And that's a chilling thing. I mean, we were a couple of seconds away from World War III starting, and the UFOs were responsible for it.
I want to hear your skinwalker story.
Okay. 2 summers ago, I went to a tiny little mountain town in Colorado. It's beautiful, but it's kind of creepy. And there's a guy named Joe, and he has the scariest skinwalker story ever. He's in this town in Colorado. They're driving middle of the night, pitch black, no light pollution, nothing. And they see a deer in the road, and they slow down, and it doesn't move. When they pass by it, they kind of look at the face, and it looks peculiar. They're like, did a double take, like, what the heck? They keep driving, and he looks in the rearview mirror, and the deer still didn't move, and it's turning like towards his car and following their car.
Oh no.
He speeds up a little bit, and the deer is running faster now, like 30-40 miles an hour, following behind their car. It gets up on his hind legs, and they're going like 70 now, and it runs all the way up to his window right here. He's driving, and it runs up to the window, and it's banging on the door, and it has like a human face. They sped up enough to where it couldn't keep up anymore. But the next morning, like the car is like torn up. The window is just like completely wrecked. There's scratches and like dents all over the driver's side door, and they said it was just the scariest thing. And my friend told me that story while we're out in the middle of nowhere on a ranch fishing, and I'm like, is he about to kill me, dude? This is so scary.
What town again?
The negatively aligned Draco reptilians and the Anunnaki have basically been harvesting humankind as a food source for spiritual energy, also known as loosh. That's a psychic and emotional energy, which they can also feed off of. You've got good and bad Pleiadians, Greys, Andromedans, and Arcturians, and these are the more neutral and positively oriented groupings who have gathered together into what are known as federations. A lot of the new agey, airy, fairy stuff doesn't want to address evil and darkness. Whenever I encounter people who are on the more airy-fairy side, and I speak about the real-life deep underground military bases and MK Ultra, a new ager will say, oh, don't talk about that. You're going to scare people. You're lowering the vibration. If I was one of these children, one of these bases, I would absolutely 100% want people not only talking about this, but giving their all to free me and the other children.
What's with the necklace, man?
What if I told you the US government was briefed on 4 alien species by a Pentagon insider? Not science fiction. This reportedly happened behind closed doors and was echoed during the May 2025 UAP Disclosure Fund hearings. Dr. Eric Davis, a physicist known for studying warp drives and crash retrievals, told Congress the US has intelligence of 4 non-human races. Watch and listen to what Eric Davis had to say.
Are they multiple species? Are they like, what was their size, and how many are usually on a craft?
They're typically the multiple species people are familiar with, the Greys, the Nordics,
people were talking about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian or insectoids.
Here's what was allegedly revealed. The Greys, we all know them, short, gray-skinned, big black eyes, notoriously linked to abductions. The Nordics, tall, beautiful, human-like, blonde, spiritually advanced. The Reptilians, manipulative, cold, controversial, and the Mantids, insect-like beings with telepathic powers. Each race supposedly differs in tech, motive, and some have been here for centuries. And remember, this wasn't on a podcast. This was said to members of Congress. Think about it. If it's true, it's the biggest truth bomb in human history. What do you think? And if you could hang out with one of the species for a day, what would you say? What would you do? Share in the comments, follow the UAP pod for more.
I would say grab a beer and let's chat. Which planet do you think has the most breathtaking views?
Demons specifically began to teach mankind how to make devices to talk to them. The first images ever used on like a television screen that you and I think of today were the Knights Templar's cross. They were literally channeling these spirits to give them technology to help them have access to their realm. But it was a two-way street, and they were being manipulated because there's obviously levers to pull on somebody to make them give them what you want. They wanted a form of technology. Most of the time it's military or it's for financial gain. And that exchange is what has progressively been building this technology that we have. This is the interface communications platform that these entities now use to get their voice in. And it started right away from the beginning. You can backplay music and hear speech. Even when people are normal, singing gospel, Christian songs, you will still hear other speech coming in backwards.
What?
And it's not always demonic sounding, it's not always evil, but when you start playing some of this music backwards, you'll find this artifacts of this phenomenon going on all over the place. Like there was a technology company that I was doing security for, and they were getting their data storage devices, petabytes of data storage, huge. That's the beast currency for them. It's going to be data storage. They got the design plans from lucid dreaming and from talking to aliens, entities that came and visited them, that showed them and helped them crack problems they were having. They were doing ritual, not the same kind of voodoo creepy stuff that people would think of, but they were communing with them under a man who was much more the handler of this group, who was an adept in these organizations. And he was teaching them, oh, here's how you can take this psilocybin mushroom. Here's how you can take these different compound supplements. And here's how you structure yourself with fasting and with sleep deprivation. And so that you will have these interactions. That was where their technology for this data storage had its origin points. But that's just one little tiny drop in a big bucket of the story of the chain of custody for where much of our technology has come from.
AI may be this type of tech.
The moment when we see people changing, be it due by stress, by emotions that they have, because the mask is connected with their original skin and nervous system. That means if the reptilian is stressed on that moment, automatic nervous system with a stress response, such as excitement, fear or anger. It means that the system have on that moment difficulty to keeping the pupils as a human and have a problem to sync with the human, and on that moment we have in a few seconds that we see the original eye of the reptilian. I can assure you all the shape-shiftings what you have already seen the last 20-40 years are real shape-shiftings from reptilians.
The lady on the plane, this is probably what she saw.
There was a government-funded operation called Project Bluebird. Ultimately, it was to break a person's mind, to create splits, multiple personalities that could be controlled. and my stepfather was in counterintelligence in the Army. We know he was trained in that. I would never say that I was a subject of it by government funding, but what we do know is what he did to me was textbook of what they would do to people. The first memory I have was being tied to a bed. I was about 3.5, and he came in and he had a cat, and he said, I want you to get the head off this cat. I had been tied to the bed all day, and he says, if you don't get the head off this cat, I'll cut your head off. And I think that's the first time my brain split. The pressure and the fear of the trauma, your brain splits in order to still function. And me as a child went away, and then I developed this personality that said, yeah, I'll do it. I don't care.
How is this man even normal? It's so unjust.
Many of our military people knew at that point that we were not simply dealing with visitations from people from other planets or star systems. They had concluded by 76 that some of these visitors very well might be multidimensional in their source. The evidence that we had collected and the evidence that they had repeatedly demonstrated to us, and that's no accident. It became very clear after a time that there was a program or a process of some kind underway, that they had demonstrated over and over and over again that they apparently were able to manipulate matter and time. Now this really shook up our scientists. The idea that there could be intelligences from somewhere else, from other dimensions coming and going into our reality. It's been quite a shakeup.
This is the antimatter reactor, and this is where it sits in the middle of the craft. The little orange spot is where the antimatter reactor is. These are the gravity amplifiers, and what happens is they shoot protons into the 115, which bumps it up to 116,
right.
Which shows off antimatter, which is mixed with matter, and through a thermionic generator creates voltage out of heat. And they're able to take it up to the center of the craft and down to the sides and into the gravity amplifiers and focus on a point in space, increase the amplification that pulls that space towards the craft. It wraps around the craft, and then they turn it off, and they're instantly hundreds of thousands of miles away.
Why don't they use this technology to go to the moon or Mars?
Take a look at this mermaid. Now, this was found in the port of Constanta in Romania, and now it's being displayed at a museum in Romania. It's easy to say that these things never existed, but I will say that there's plenty of proof. There's been plenty of bodies that have washed ashore on many locations that resembles something that looks like this right here. People expect mermaids to be these beautiful fish like you see in the movies, but they're not. They actually look a bit scary, and remember, they are creatures that live in the sea. And there are many things out there, taxidermy, that would surprise you. There's, from my understanding, even Bigfoot, and we don't know what these things look like.
Don't do that, please.
So who would say? It's probably not some beautiful woman.
Oh.
Again, we don't know what these things look like. Have you ever seen a mermaid? Leave it in the comments.
God, man, that guy.
This is what the Anunnaki said.
The Anunnaki were ancient sky beings who came down, mated with humans, and created hybrids, the Nephilim, giants, kings, rulers, that violated divine law. So God hit reset, aka the flood. But Genesis 6:4 says that some survived. Not just the corrupted giants, but refined hybrid bloodlines slipped through, carried by the wives of Noah's sons. Noah was pure, but his sons' wives, one of them carried preserved Anunnaki DNA. That blood flowed through Shem and then split. One line to Ashur, founder of the Assyrians, the other to Abraham, father of the Jews. The Jews got the covenant. The Assyrians got the memory, the fire, the kingship. You want proof? Gilgamesh. He wasn't a myth. He was a post-flood hybrid king, 2/3 God, 1/3 man. His story is found in Assyrian libraries. The corrupted ones, they became the 13 bloodlines running the world. I'm from the bloodline that remembers how it was built. And I came to remind them who lit the torch first.
Fallen angels disguised as term Anunnaki sky beings.
I think what we are dealing with is very, very, very old.
I think old humans have written those down in religious stories. I think that it's quite clear that we have been influenced by something else. These things, whatever they are probably what are referred to as gods or demons or angels or jinn, or insert whatever cultural or religious perspective you have. There are probably also extraterrestrials. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And considering, you know, humanity has the same stories across many cultures: a flood, crafts that are in the sky, things that are coming and helping humans. And I'm at an advantage and a disadvantage knowing certain information that relates very clearly to things that are around the world that are related to what I know. I don't think that's by pure coincidence or luck. I think that the people that are in these programs know the truth to this stuff, and they are looking at it through a lens of, this is true, this is true, this is true. This has been here for 8,000 years. This has been here for 4,000 years.
No one even knows about because they're hidden from our maps. But this German map is actually a reflection of the moon, which I know we've already talked about before. But they believe that the moon acted as a reflection in the sky that showed all of the lands on Earth in a X-ray vision imprint on top of the moon.
Bro is leaking Fortnite's next season info.
This dude studies the effects of DMT, but he's like, DMT, it's fascinating. But what was super spooky, he talked about how everyone that takes DMT, they all experience and see the same entities.
Oh, gosh.
One of the types of entities that a large majority of people see, they're called insectilians, like the giant praying mantis and stuff. No. And what they do lines up so much with alien abductions. When they encounter these insectilians, it's typically very technology-based. It's like they're being probed, experimented on, tortured. He gave an example of this one guy from South Korea. It's like, all he wanted to do was talk to the spirits of the forest. He did it 3 times, and each time he was taken onto this UFO and tortured and experimented on. He couldn't escape. And he's like, it felt so invasive. It said at one point it literally felt like they took his soul out.
Oh my gosh.
And when he came out of the trip, he felt like he didn't have a soul anymore.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he's like, oh, let's do this one time. That happens, and he's like, run it back.
Apparently.
Let's just go ahead and say this right now, because I don't feel like we've ever come out and actually said it. But if you're a God-fearing person, if you love Jesus, this stuff is not for you. Don't do that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's evil.
Yeah.
100% with you on the last thing you said.
We know that there are declassified U.S. government plans that have been in even mainstream news to project 300-yard tall Buddha or Jesus or Muhammad.
Do you think the moon's real?
No, absolutely not. The Dogon tribe in Africa talks about the time before the moon. Literally, there was a time before the moon, which means what? Which means the moon was implanted there. It was not made by, quote unquote, the original OG God. It was implanted there, and like literally there's a whole science about how it connects to Saturn and how it's literally like an energy suck station, how it's influencing the water and the magnetism of the reproductive cycle, the hormonal cycle. We're water, we're 77% water. Did it affect the ocean? Is it affecting us? Absolutely. Saturn is communicating with the moon, and there's like a connection there, and it's pulling energy, and there was a time before the moon, which means it was planted there. Yeah.
Right, Saturn, huh?
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that Saturn is like Satan or something. And when you listen to Saturn, I don't know if you've ever heard of sort of this tone that comes from each planet, but when you get to Saturn, it sounds like hell.
I haven't particularly sat and listened to Saturn, but yeah, I'm not scared. Maybe I'll listen to it, yeah.
Perhaps that's why all concerts happen at night, and the clubs and the partying.
Let's go in. The last major reset occurred between the mid-1700s and late 1800s, roughly 250 to 150 years ago. This reset wasn't just war or disease. It was a global memory wipe, infrastructure repopulation, and narrative overwrite. They used mud floods, fires, engineered natural disasters, and selective rewriting of history to wipe Tartaria and erase what came before. Now here's the strange part. The Capitol buildings, World's Fair structures, old world cathedrals, domed geometries, these were already here. We didn't build them, we inherited them. Photos from the 1800s show cities fully built, yet nearly empty. No scaffolding, no construction, just there. And the stories, always the same, built in a few years, then burned down. Now enter the orphan trains and Cabbage Patch Kids. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children were shipped across the U.S. by train. No parents, no background, just orphans. But where did all the orphans come from? They were reset survivors, children with no memory, no lineage, placed into repopulated cities to seed a new narrative. Why? Because adults remember. Children can be programmed. Cabbage Patch Kids, the dolls said to be grown in the Cabbage Patch, are symbolic disclosure. Born from the earth, no parents. Just like the orphan trains, the name is not innocent, it's encoded truth. The U.S. wasn't founded and built from scratch. It was inherited, cleansed, and rebranded. The buildings were Tartarian. The reset was intentional. And now the memory is coming back. Because people like you are asking the right questions.
What's the best Tartaria documentary? Anyone?
This man has proof he's an actual shapeshifter. Watch this.
That's here is real. My name, it's not too important. The information I'm about to tell you is extremely important.
I thought he was lying until I saw this.
With the United States Navy. Since then, if you watch my other videos, strange things have started to happen to my body. If you remember, my eye has started to get more of a slit in a reptilian.
He's not lying, y'all. Check this out.
If you look at my other videos, or what I'm adding right here, you can actually see up close what my eye looks like.
This is real life
if you
monster
remember
stuff.
My body in certain areas, like for example, you look at my elbows.
That's not normal.
This isn't a trick. This isn't something that I'm doing some Photoshop of in. My elbows on both sides, I'm growing additional limbs. My hands, my thumbs, they're extending and
This man may have actually been part of a super soldier program similar to the one Captain America was in, except for he didn't turn into Captain America. He turned into a reptilian. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay weird.
Why he's not showing his whole face when his eyes change?
Did you know that in the United States a child was once born with DNA that wasn't human? This happened in rural Kansas in March 2015. A baby boy was born with completely black eyes, no iris. His body temperature was 2 degrees below normal, and he almost never cried. The mother said her son never blinked and watched her as if he understood every word. Local doctors ran tests, but the results were so strange that a DNA sample was sent to a laboratory in Bern, Switzerland. The report revealed something disturbing: 17 unknown genetic markers, sequences that did not match any other living being ever cataloged on Earth. The report never officially reached the hospital. Instead, 2 men with badges from a federal agency appeared, demanding exams, computers, and silence. Witnesses say that same night, strange black vehicles were seen circling the small town. In November 2017, the entire family disappeared without a trace. The house was found empty, no furniture, no documents. On the floor, only a geometric symbol drawn in charcoal remained. Neighbors swear that days before the disappearance, they heard piercing sounds coming from inside the house. The case was filed as voluntary abandonment, but independent investigators insist that child was not fully human. It was a hybrid, part of us and part of something that should not be here.
Could he be the Antichrist?
This is the scariest, most mysterious story in Texas history. Back in the 1820s, when a young Josiah Wilbarger and his young bride moved to Texas. Now, one day, Josiah and a group of men go out riding around the hill country, scouting a place to put a new farm or to bring a new settler in. They stop to get water for themselves and their horses when all of a sudden, a group of 60 Indians, maybe Comanches, attack them. Wilbarger is shot with an arrow through the calf. The bullet in the thigh, tries to hide behind a tree and then join the people who are riding away when suddenly he gets hit with a bullet through the neck. Leaves him paralyzed but conscious. The Comanches, we'll assume they're Comanches, supposing him dead, proceed to scalp him. 2 of his friends in the scouting party ride back home. They're like, he's dead. But a few hours later, Josiah comes to. So he lives through his scalping. He tries to walk back to his camp, but he can't. And so he simply props himself up on an oak tree in the middle of the night, wakes up, and his sister is there. Now, she lives in Missouri, but she's come to tell him, don't die, don't give up. He begs her to stay with him, but she's like, no, I have to go. So she leaves. One of the people who had survived, he's with his wife. She sits bolt upright in bed, says, I had a dream. Josiah's alive. He's bleeding. He's naked. He's seated by a tree. You have to go and rescue him. The husband says he's not alive. Goes back to bed, has the same dream again. So he gets a group of men. Sure enough, they find Josiah just exactly as her dream had said. He speaks of his sister visiting him, and he expects that she's still around town. Not long after that, word reaches him that she had passed just the day before in Missouri and was no longer alive the night that he saw her. One of the mysteries of the frontier.
Yeehaw! Okay, yeehaw!
What if I told you the real enemy isn't a horned devil, but an ancient intelligence that is feeding on your mind? The mystic Rudolf Steiner warned us about this a century ago. He called it Ahriman, and he predicted it would incarnate in our time as a rational genius. Steiner said that evil is not one thing but two. Lucifer brings liberation at the cost of chaos, Ahriman brings comfort at the cost of cold control, and Christ balances both. Ahriman uses algorithms and artificial intelligence. He doesn't destroy your soul, he makes you forget you have one.
Ooh.
He offers efficiency at the cost of humanity. Look at Silicon Valley, tech leaders promising to solve death and enhance humans. Every time you choose the algorithm over intuition, that's Ahriman winning. He doesn't come with horns, he comes with upgrades, and we download him willingly.
Is the phone in your hand?
This is 11 years later, and the plane is still completely missing. So the first thing that people have to realize in this case is that planes don't disappear in 2014. The engines are supposedly being tracked. We have hundreds of, if not thousands of satellites back in 2014. Now we have tens of thousands, potentially, of satellites in the sky. We have acoustic systems that can hear a tiny submersible implode near the Titanic. So we would have heard a plane crash. And then lastly, we have these over-the-horizon radars, including one called the Jindalee Operational Radar Network in Australia. They can see for thousands of miles. How is it that nobody saw this plane? If you look at all the evidence that was never released, we have satellite data, acoustics information, telephone information. Nothing was ever put out to the public. So clearly, there's some form of cover-up.
The Malaysia flight was caught on satellite video. And we all saw the three orbs that circled the plane before blinking out.
Rockefellers don't run America, it's the Collins family. The District of Columbia, it's not a state, right? It's a district of Columbia. The Knights of Columbus, Columbia Pictures, and the list goes on. You're Mexican, you know his real name. It's not Columbus, it's Cristobal Colon, which has a Jewish ancestry of the Cohens, the priest class. They are the royal Spanish family that brought the Inquisition over to America, hence the Mexican flag is exactly the same as the Italian flag. Funny, but the Mexicans added the Italian Roman eagle because you see, when the Vatican came over and corporately took over the Americas, they put their precious Italian flag right in the middle of North America and South America, Mexico. Well, why would you do that? Now, why would the Vatican do that and bring the Spanish Inquisition over and kill a lot of Mayans and burn their buildings and, yeah. We've got a lot of questions to ask here now, haven't we?
Russia run the bank. Whoever has power over the banks are the ones who are truly in power. How else does war begin?
If things go sideways, there will be a massive ET assistance, only in a worst case scenario. In other words, if we go to a full geophysical catastrophe or a major thermonuclear launch situation, what have you, then and only then. But the only other situation where there would be that level of it happening overtly, because they want us to learn, they want us to evolve, not be conquered. They're way wiser than we are. Like, we go into Afghanistan thinking we're going to turn it into a Jeffersonian democracy, and 20 years later and trillions of dollars later, it's right back to having a theocracy of the Taliban, right? So they know that external forcing something from one outside culture to another doesn't work. There's a clock ticking. And so at some point, we run the clock out. And we're going to need people who are enlightened, peaceful, who actually know how to discern a staged fake ET thing from a real one, but will be the points of contact to those civilizations. So this is why a whole, large group of people who understand the science of consciousness, contact, CE5 contact, that's really important. It's strategically very important, and I think it's important for the future of humanity and the earth.
There is no utopia. These demons will be unleashed during the tribulation, and they aren't your friends.
High in the Nepalese Himalayas in 1965, Dorje Sherpa discovered a mural inside a cavern recently exposed by an avalanche. What he saw on its walls shook the entire village and changed their beliefs to this very day. Painted in faded pigments were towering beings with stretched bodies and large eyes, all gathered beneath a vessel unlike anything from this earth. To the Sherpa, these figures became known as Thiangpa, the Silent Watchers. They treated the cave as sacred, believing the paintings preserved a truth too old to forget, and a power that still protects the mountain region. But the mystery did not end there. Nearly identical murals have since been uncovered in Peru, in Australia, and in Ethiopia, thousands of miles apart, across cultures that never met. Each one shows the same beings. Each one shows the same hovering craft. Experts agree. This vessel is not a symbol. It is a ship. And the only question is, will they return, or do they already walk among us today?
What is that evidence that they found of wood construction from far longer than they thought?
Yeah, this is the Colombo structure, and this is something I talk about a lot in my videos because I think it's a crazy find and I don't understand why it's not kicking up more of a fuss. There you go. Yes, the Colombo structure is these pieces of wood that have been joined together deliberately, cut in notches and connected together, tapered and secured at right angles. And they think it was either a kind of raised walkway, like a kind of raised platform, or a house, a dwelling, a hut, some kind of structure. And why this is so paradigm shifting is because not only does this kind of scream that humans potentially lived in permanent settlement. So, sorry, I haven't even said this. This is 476,000 years old. So this predates Homo sapiens. It's crazy. It lasted so long.
Monkey wrench.
Yeah, I would say it's a massive monkey wrench because not only does it kind of really dispute this idea that we didn't settle down until 12,000 years ago with the Neolithic Revolution. Because I mean, it's a structure. I mean, and it's just because it's so unlikely, it's so unbelievable that this would have survived. But that kind of suggests that it's not the only one.
Right.
There could have been loads of these, like structures everywhere.
What if the real enemy of humanity isn't devil, but an ancient intelligence that hijacks systems, not souls? Let me show you the figure nobody talks about deeply enough, Ahriman. In ancient Zoroastrian cosmology, Ahriman or Angra Mainyu isn't just a villain. He's the principle of untruth. He doesn't tempt you with chaos. He builds systems so sterile and orderly they suffocate spirit. He's not fire and madness, he's cold logic, automation, artificial control. The perfect bureaucracy, the dead machine. Esoteric thinkers like Rudolf Steiner believed Ahriman was real and preparing to incarnate, not as a beast, but as a rational genius, a man of science, tech, and order, who offers humanity efficiency at the cost of inner life. But Ahriman doesn't erase your soul. He makes you forget you had one. Every time you nudge to distrust intuition, to obey the algorithm, and to replace real connection with digital dopamine. That's his influence. Not flashy, but invasive and systematic. Almost invisible. This isn't about religion, it's about metaphysical infiltration. What if the reason everything feels numb, repetitive, and synthetic? It's because we're being trained to prefer what Ahriman would build. Well, predictable, productive, and empty. He doesn't come with horns, he comes with upgrades, and we download him willingly.
So like, what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg.
What are the face peelers?
Back in 2023, there was a series of videos that went viral, and these videos were captured in the Peruvian Amazon. Chaotic scene in which the villagers were running around screaming, saying, "We're being assaulted by aliens," and they were using the term pela cara, which is face peeler. I had to go down there to investigate a particular incident, which was the attempted abduction of a 15-year-old girl. And she told me one evening she was in her backyard, and she bent over to pick up the fruit. She felt a wind at her back, and she looked up to see what was generating this wind, and she saw this person dressed in black body armor flying on a disc, and then he landed next to her, and he grabbed her from behind. He put his hand over her mouth. Another one lands in front of her, and he grabs her legs. They took out a long tube, and this had a cream in it, and the guy that was holding her mouth from behind, he started to smear this cream all over her face. And as he was doing it, the guy in front said, be careful, don't put too much on because you're going to ruin the flesh." After they applied this stuff to her face, they take out a laser scalpel, and they begin to make an incision under her jawline, and she starts to struggle. And as they're beginning to cut, she starts to freak out, and she gets her hand underneath the helmet of the guy behind her, and she starts to lift up on the helmet. He gets agitated, he freaks out a little bit, and they drop her. She lets out a blood-curdling scream. Her brother and a group of other villagers come running instantly. And Talia, before she passed out, she said that the assailants said, let's go, we got to get out of here. And then one of them said, no, we can't just leave her here.
Sounds like some deep black CIA stuff.
My name is Joseph McMonagle. I was the first one recruited for the Stargate program. So they assigned me 001. When they recruited the second guy, they realized if you got 002, they'd be telling everybody how many viewers they had. So you got 375 or something. So I was the only one with a 00. So I'm the only one authorized to kill people with my head.
Ooh.
Which I'm kidding, of course. Originally, it was designed to determine whether or not it was a threat. Whether or not, if the Russians, the Chinese were using it, is this a threat? And they knew nothing about remote viewing. So in a desirable kind of way, what you want to do is train a few people, have them target your own stuff like the Pentagon, the White House, stuff like that. Collect some data, and then turn it over to an independent agency to evaluate. And they determine the threat that's there. And if it's a high threat, then you want to get more involved. If it turns out it's really nothing, you just close it off. You end the test period, and it's done. And so originally it was to determine the threat possibilities of remote viewing. The problem is it worked, and it worked really well.
Who is the independent agency? That's the real question.
That's fascinating.
I think so.
Didn't the Smithsonian cover up Adam and Eve or something?
Are you talking about the Adam and Eve book?
Yes.
Oh, that's a different one. That's so that's a book that was released in 1966 by Dr. Chan Thomas, and it's called The Story of Adam and Eve. And that story title sounds cute until you read it and you realize he's talking about really Adam and Eve. And the story is it's this 278-page manuscript that is classified by the CIA, and they've removed 200 pages. There's only like 50 or 60 pages left, and half of those are blank. And the CIA says it's been sanitized. And the reason that the CIA was so interested in the book of Adam and Eve is because it describes the end of the world. And Dr. Thomas, in the book, talks about pole shifts and what happens when the poles shift. Something happens to the inner core of the Earth, our electrical field gets thrown off, and when that happens, the poles shift, and it's something that happens over and over and over again. And his pole shift is a 90-degree shift, so Antarctica goes to the equator, and the equator goes down south. Like, it's violent. And as it's shifting, the atmosphere continues to rotate, west to east. So he describes in the book just walls of water and this wind and debris just tearing across everything. Cities are reduced to waste.
And if this is true, what can we do about it? Just go enjoy your life until then.
Do demons wear clothes? They certainly do. They don't walk around naked. People don't understand that there's demons amongst us even now. And demons wear clothes like we wear clothes, and that is because they're trying to fit in. They're trying to be one of us, and they're very good at disguising themselves. And For me, it's a really funny reaction when I meet somebody, when I put my robe on or my dog collar on and I'm carrying my bag that I've got with me today, and I meet somebody for the first time, and I think there's something strange about them. It's all about their eyes. And normally anything demonic, because I'm ordained, will look very uncomfortable with me and want to back off. Some demons are called shapeshifters, and shapeshifters are entities or not nice souls who kind of go from one thing to another. So they could potentially be a dog, they could be a cat, they could be any kind of animal, they could be a person, they could be your mum, your dad. We've investigated areas where people have said they've heard the mum, they've heard the dad, and that's to lure you in, to make you feel comfortable. And they will appear however you feel comfortable. And that's to make you welcome them in. Once you've welcomed a demonic entity in, then that's when the problems start.
JC of Nazareth is our Lord and Savior.
Always. That's how I get a lot of my information.
Do you think I have my spirit guides around me too?
Yeah. There is a woman who stands behind you, and she's...
How can I develop my psychic ability?
We're all psychic. It's a natural part of who we are. All we have to do is ask. They hear us, they give us what we need. There is in witchcraft called the threefold law. And the threefold law is whatever you do comes back to you 3 times.
Have you ever been tempted?
Oh, yeah.
My first teacher was someone who walked what we call the left-hand path.
What is that?
The left-hand path is the opposite of the light. It's the darkness. And she definitely was a dark witch.
You were telling me something about one of the incidents that happened with your child.
I heard him in the bedroom. He came out and I said, "Who are you talking to?" And he said, "Mommy, I'm talking to Sedna." And I said, "Who's Sedna?" It was the goddess. And I'm like, "Okay." And so he said, "Look at what she taught me." I said, "Okay." So he goes, "I'm going to make it snow." And he stood in front of the window and he put his finger on the window. And all of a sudden, ice started to form on the window around his finger.
Do you believe in reincarnation? How do we know that what is real and what is psychological? Did you already know that you were a psychic?
Oh, absolutely.
Has there been any incident that has stayed with you because it was so evil and so off-putting for you?
I watched my son go stiff and his hands went down and he turns around and he goes, "Get out now!" And he slammed his foot on the ground and the house shook. And then it went silent.
I have the Holy Spirit. That's my guidance.
The worship of the serpent is the oldest form of worship, the Ubaid culture. In their graves have been found these serpent images of their gods. Many of them are holding babies. Reptilian gods were supposed to have elongated skulls. Among some native peoples, they take the children and they bind their heads so tightly and it elongates the skull. They say it's to make our children like the gods. The ancient Chinese emperors used to claim the right to be emperor because of their descendants from what they called the serpent gods. The official storyteller of the Zulu nation, he tells the story of an interbreeding between the Chitahuri and human women to create a hybrid bloodline. This reptilian human DNA, shall we say, is a software program. The symbol of the medical profession is a symbol of the DNA as snakes. One key aspect of this hybrid DNA is that they don't have empathy. And so these people that end up in these positions of power are vehicles to allow these entities to manipulate this reality. What we're looking at are possessed entities.
That's why Jesus called them brood of vipers.
The gentleman with which I was associated was approximately 3.5 feet tall. He had a dark brown appearance, very ruddy appearance to his skin. He was in a highly pressurized clean sphere. 3.5 feet, large head in comparison to torso, large bulbous black eyes. The whites of the eyes had been selected out, so it looked like a large pupil, basically. When you look into his eyes, you feel like you're going to fall into his eyes forever. And I think that probably had something to do with the telepathic nature of his mental structure. He was hunched over most of the time, could not support himself fully, given muscular atrophy, and that had to do with the peripheral neuropathy under which he was suffering. He was unclothed, which bothered him. He wanted to wear clothing and was refused in every turn. Called himself captive, and justifiably so. His facial features were grotesque in comparison to what he showed me what normal would be. Nose was recessed, an extremely small mouth, a hard palate, no teeth.
Do you have any idea what his chronological age was?
622.
What?
They excrete in a manner that we would excrete. Their external genitalia are different than ours. The females have somewhat like vulva, but they have a clasper situation. The male has a male clasper, the female claspers. And if it looks like a disc with rectangular solids that are rotated into position for clasping at the inguinal region. They do have internal fertilization.
Now, this was something you read because you didn't see a female, did you?
No, this is something he showed me of his wife. Everything that he showed me when this was the incident. When he projected it into me, it felt like I was there. He was extremely depressed. If we were to term him human, I'm not a psychologist, but I think he would be termed as clinically depressed. He wept, but he didn't weep outside. He wept when he was with me.
Well, could you estimate what his level of intellect was?
Smarter than me. He was smarter than me by a long range.
Did he have a wide range of knowledge?
The mathematics.
You can become possessed in three different ways. One is through mortal sin, as I mentioned, which is about half our caseload. The other half, roughly half, there's a very small percentage of this third kind, but the second kind is when some grave thing has happened to the individual. And so about 50, sometimes a little higher, but 50% of the people that come to us are women who have been molested, psychologically or physically gravely abused. And that's how the demon got his foot in the door. And people say, well, that's not fair. And how does that even happen, they'll say. Well, it's pretty simple. Anytime God gave us dominion over the created reality, and if we use that in a disordered way, we not only is our sin and our action under the domain of Satan, but we take the thing which we have dominion over with us in that process. And so when people act against other people in gravely disordered ways, that's how they can become possessed under certain circumstances. The third kind is one in which they've never done any mortal sin, they haven't done any grave sin, and there's nothing that's been gravely done to it. This is extraordinarily rare. I've only read about these cases. I've never seen them. The one case I have in mind is there was a case in 1932 in Iowa where a woman, a nun, had become possessed. And so the exorcist went to get to the demon to the point where he was trying to figure out, how did you get in? He got the demon to the point where he could finally get the answer out. How did you get in? What sin did she commit? And the demon said she didn't commit any sin. Then what are you doing here? He said, God allowed the possession because there's a sin in the region for which he wants reparation made.
Ooh.
So the priest went, back in that day, exposition was, you had to have special permission there were 2 times of the year it was permitted. Outside that, you had to have special permission to do it. So he went to the bishop, they set up reparation in the entire diocese. 2 days later, the demon was liberated. The sin was divorce.
You need to listen to the Exorcist files if you haven't already.
Yes, I am a fallen angel. I used to be with Yahweh.
We have to keep their minds closed to the gospel, so when Yeshua comes back, we'll be ready.
What was once seen as science fiction is a reality. What many people call aliens are angelic in nature, many fallen angels. Not only did the Pentagon report talk about how UFOs left radiation burns, but also unaccounted for pregnancies, which echoes Genesis 6. The sons of God went into the daughters of men and begot giants, the mighty men of old, the men of renown, when fallen angels mated with human women to produce the Nephilim. Not to mention the government's hearing on UAPs and UFOs, recovering non-human biologics, and highly decorated officials have noted that some of these UAPs, UFOs seem to be non-human in origin. What you would call reptilians are fallen seraphim. Seraph in Isaiah in Hebrew means fiery flying serpent. serpentine angels that fell. And yes, Yahweh himself has some angels that have on serpent-like characteristics. Some of his. Isaiah chapter 6. So when you see the Apostle Paul talking about the God of this age has blinded the minds, as well as the fallen angels mentioned in Ephesians chapter 6, when you put two and two together and you begin to realize that these aliens that people keep talking about and how those are not different from these, then you'll come into a brand new realm of understanding the end times. And much of what people have called science fiction, at least for the majority of my life, are now being seen as reality. And the weird people are going to be the ones left in the dark that continue to say stuff like this doesn't exist. I've been saying this for years. I don't say that to gloat. I say that because people always like, you're talking about it now. No, I don't hop on trends. I've been talking about this. Some of you remember if you follow me on Facebook and TikTok and all of that. And I believe as we get closer to the return of Christ, the veil is getting thinner. Amen. And then all this stuff about CERN, don't get me started on that. Hit follow if you like Bible content like this. Decoded, unlocking God's algorithm to your destiny. Many of you have asked me, Ty, how do I know what God has called me to? I decided to make a class about it. And in this, we're going to talk about quantum physics and its role in God's spiritual journey for us. How God created his own divine prompts for our lives and destiny and ways to connect with them. A detailed biblical perspective on the phenomenon of deja vu, as well as the mystery of timing, understanding how God orchestrates seasons, how the enemy fights against it, prophetic patterns in the Bible, and a lot more. I will also be doing a 30-minute Q&A on opening day. So if you have any questions regarding around this subject, this is the time to ask. To join from IG, click the Ironic Learning link in my bio or in my story. To join from TikTok, click the Ironic Learning link in my bio. The class themselves will be pre-recorded. You can watch them anytime.
God and Jesus Christ are the only way to rebuke this world.
This book, to this day, it's the #1 religious selling book in Russia. He did a whole chapter on UFOs. I'm like, this is wild. His conclusion is it is a true materialization of a demonic deception. He also proposed that the Antichrist could be this deception of an alien being coming down. He quotes this guy, Saint Simeon, the struggler of prayer should quite rarely look into the sky out of fear of the evil spirits in the air who cause many and various deceptions in the air. Bishop Ignatius recorded an awe and foreboding vision. In the middle of the day, he suddenly saw multiple demons in human form sitting in the branches of the forest trees in strange garments and pointed caps and singing, "Our years have come, our will be done." I really do believe that there are stuff that I've seen in the sky could be heavenly, but I also believe that there is this true demonic deception that we don't even know what they can do. This one guy who's a UFOologist, he wrote, "Dabbling with UFOs can be as dangerous as dabbling with black magic."
That is crazy.
It's scary, man.
Let me be crystal clear. Every single dinosaur skeleton you see in a museum is fake. What they show you are casts and models, not real bones. The original bones, the remains of a certain flying beast that's been documented all throughout history, mentioned by every single ancient culture. Yeah, naked dragons. The bones from previous resets and catastrophes and whatever other genetic monstrosities the civilization before us created in their eugenics labs are locked away, unavailable for independent research. Shocking, I know.
Didn't call them dinosaur, they called them dragon. The word dinosaur wasn't made up till 1841. It's a brand new word in the dictionary. I got some old dictionaries and looked for the word dinosaur. Even in 1891, the word was not in the dictionary. They called them dragons. Bible mentions dragons 34 times.
Dinosaurs were invented during the 19th century, at the same time that Darwinism was being promoted as the new account of life on Earth. The coincidence was deliberate, because the creation of enormous reptiles from the imagined ages before mankind gave dramatic form to the theory of evolution. Without dinosaurs, the public would have struggled to imagine millions of years filled with anything meaningful.
They tried to push it in the movie, Jurassic Park.
CERN, there's a reason CERN is the developers of the internet you and I are using to communicate to people all over the world. They sit under the Temple of Apollo. Their job is to unlock that gate. They want to bring him out and to raise their destroyer to the earth. That is their agenda. They developed the technology that you and I are using now and gave it to people, but long ways down the line. The military, by the time they're done with the technology, it's 40 years after the fact, then they're going to give you wristwatch AI computers. I saw them in 2006. This stuff they give to us is their leftovers. It's the microwave oven after they're done building microwave weapons and nuking people with them.
Yeah. Once it's irrelevant and not usable on their end, that's when they give it to you.
When they have something far beyond this.
Yeah. Before we hit that recording, and then you just mentioned this, are you referring that recording that you were talking about? Is that the recording that you're referring to before, or are we talking about you have two different recordings?
I have three.
You have three recordings with them talking.
The other ones were when I spoke at conferences.
Really?
One
Okay.
in Canada, when I spoke at a conference.
Did other people
in
hear it,
Canada.
or was it just caught on the recording?
It was on the recording. So I spoke at a conference in Canada called Quest for Truth. Oh no. Dying to Save a Life is the name of the video on my YouTube channel. You can watch that talk. But when I filmed it, I had two cameras. I've had to learn how to do 2 or 3 of everything now since then. But when I filmed it on my phone and on a standalone camera. And when I looked at it on my phone after the conference ended there in Canada, it was completely normal. I watched it. But when I got on the airplane and began to watch it as I was flying back home, it was 6 hours long. And I'd given like a 40-ish minute speech. And I was like, what the heck? And when I got to a part where I was specifically talking about Revelation 19, when I was starting to hit on the judgments of the dragon and talking about that, my whole video goes into slow motion in my video. And underneath is a completely different audio. And it sounds like the dragon from the tunnel, but as if he had chains attached to him. And as he's moving, these chains are dragging behind him. As it genuinely sounds like he's in a prison cell. It sounds like he's in a prison cell or in a chamber, like he was when he saw me last, you know? Yeah. And it was just threats and violence and reviling, just enraged, like utter betrayal, warning me, I am going to gut you for what you've done. Just violence. And he fulfilled that, man. I nearly died not a month later. It was almost punched my ticket.
Yeah, but he didn't fulfill it the way he wants to fulfill it.
No,
right?
But I still have 5 holes in my stomach from where I got wrecked with hernias that have never been fixed. My spine is still crooked. I still can't walk and stand upright. You know, I'm still pretty freaking damaged goods.
All power belongs to Jesus.
This is Ra.
Ra Ra.
One of the most powerful and venerated gods in ancient Egyptian mythology.
Fallen angels.
Often depicted as a falcon-headed man bearing a sun disk on his head. Legend says he sailed across the heavens during the day and through the underworld at night, depicting the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. This is Marduk. In Babylonian mythology, Marduk rises to become the chief deity, particularly noted in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic. Marduk is known for defeating Tiamat, the chaotic sea goddess, and creating the world from her divided body.
This is how the real Antichrist will come back to Earth. Watch this.
The Antichrist is not foretold to come from fire or shadow,
but
from silence. Ancient prophecies describe him as a man, born of human blood, yet carrying something far older, something that does not belong to this world. It is said he will appear when the world cries out for peace, when the nations grow desperate for a savior. His eyes will hold the weight of centuries, and his voice will feel like truth itself, wrapping lies in the warmth of hope. He will heal the sick, feed the hungry, and unite nations under a single banner. But every gift will carry a hidden chain, every miracle a debt that cannot be repaid. And the day the world realizes it, it will already be too late.
Is it coming soon?
He will not conquer with war, but with choice. A choice to follow him, or vanish from the world entirely, as if you had never existed. And when the last kingdom kneels, the daylight will turn to night. The seas will retreat as if fleeing something unseen, and the earth will open, not to claim him, but to release what sleeps beneath. Because the Antichrist's reign is not the end, it is only the door, and once it opens, there is no closing it.
Stay weird.
I think he's already here, and no one is raising the alarm. No media coverage.
So somebody got good footage of the clouds flowing over the mountaintops. I want y'all to pay attention to this light right here. Because maybe UFOs could be fallen angels. Because this UFO that you are about to see is exactly how the Bible describes how angels look. I want y'all to pay attention to this. because you're about to witness something very strange. Look at this. Now, you can't tell me that that doesn't look scary. Look at that. Right in the clouds. Now, I'm going to show y'all again in slow motion exactly what you just witnessed. Now, it's a chance that UFOs could be fallen angels if you look at this video.
Ooh.
Now, y'all tell me what y'all think about this, because this right here blew my mind.
China has created a robot so human-like that people mistook it for a person, and it'll be available for purchase way sooner than everyone had expected. A Chinese company named Xpeng, which up to now was known only as an electric car company, held a launch conference where they had what could be the world's most lifelike robot named Iron walk out by itself. The audience at first didn't believe Iron was real until the presenters began breaking the robot apart live on stage to reveal the machine wirings and metal frame underneath. But then the company did something even more surprising. They showed a video of how their factories are already planning to mass produce Iron, with the CEO announcing that buyers can fully customize it with bionic muscles, a soft skin-like exterior, and even gender selections, before finally revealing that Iron will first be available as tour guides and sales associates in their headquarters, and then appear on the market for public purchase within only just a few years.
What could possibly go wrong, right?
Vampires weren't just European legends. In Greece, they were Lamia. In China, the Jiangxi hopped in search of blood. In Africa, the Usan Bosam hunted from treetops with iron teeth.
Ew.
Different names,
That one is scary.
different lands, but all the same creature, a blood drinker that stalks the night. Coincidence or proof that vampires are everywhere?
Mosquito is a vampire.
I know where they're putting human body parts into the pig supply and the pork supply. The Reynolds family used to own 60% of all the crematoriums and moratoriums in the United States and funeral homes, and they would dispose of bodies that way too. Pig farms. Because a pig will dispose. A couple of pigs will dispose of a body in a few minutes, and then they feed that to the populace. Don't eat pig.
That you need to raise yourself.
Could not strongly warn people against that enough. Parasites of hookworms are serious things. That's why a lot of Southerners are what Southerners are. Understand something. Southerners, and a lot of their speech and their cadence and their rhythm, it's hookworms. 9 out of 10 times.
Really?
1 for 1, they are ruled by parasites. Detox them, their brains turn on, and they're sharp and capable communicators almost immediately. Tapeworms and hookworms come pouring out of them. But they were mostly fed pork diets. Whereas out west, you see a lot less of it. And in the north, because beef tended to be the predominant thing. Sheep before that, but beef tended to feed them a lot more often. And they're far less prone to feeding you the parasites. So something to consider. Change your life forever. Do a detox, man.
Well, I got like a whole freezer full of pork right now.
Oh my
And the ones that I raised.
Bro, he gave us some instructions in the scriptures to try to keep us away from stuff that's definitely deadly. Pig is 100% an animal we know gets possessed by demons. Absolutely. The legions that come out of the two men, the demoniacs in the tombs, where do they go?
Pigs.
Straight into the pigs. And the pigs are fully possessed, total possession. Think about this. The power, the spiritual possession capacity of 1 man, 2 man, depending on which account you're in, filled a herd of pigs and it drowned them in the sea. That's because those spirits, when they lose their assignment on their target, they better bring a sacrifice back with them so they don't get their stinking lunch eaten by the higher principality that's ruling them. This is why swine and pork is so heavily warned about in the scriptures. Like, don't eat it. Don't eat it. When you abstain from these things, like my family and I just started trying to eat the way that the scripture said, like literally. And it was unbelievable how many of the lights turned on in our brains, you know, and like why it was valuable for us to try to find clean soil.
Man, I eat pork and I love sushi. Wow, I gotta stop.
When the Antichrist shows up, and I'm still here, when the mark of the beast shows up, and they're telling everybody, you got to put this chip in your wrist or you can't buy or sell, when those things happen, and Christians are still here, they're not going to believe that's the Antichrist, and they're not going to believe that's the mark of the beast, and they're not going to believe any of this stuff because we're still here. Because if that's really what that was, he would have already pulled me out of here. And then I've heard some Christians say, and even some preachers, God wouldn't make us go through something like that. And to them I say, really? Why don't you go tell that to the underground Christians in communist China right now who are being by the thousands? Why don't you go tell that to the Christians in Syria right now who are being chopped up into pieces in the streets? Do you think fat, lazy American Christians are better than them? No, they are superior to us. They are willing to worship God and be a Christian when it means they could die for doing it. In modern churches even today, they don't don't want to preach that. Joel Osteen is never going to preach that. Joel Osteen is never going to say anything that's going to make anybody uncomfortable ever on any level ever.
Hope for one, but prepare for both. It just doesn't make sense to me when I look at the scriptures and look at God's character that we wouldn't be here for the greatest test of faith yet.
It's doing 200 miles an hour underwater, big as a football field, and that's no fish.
People swear up and down that the devil is underground, it's underneath our feet, hell is below us. But that's not what the Bible says, that's not what the Quran says, and that's not even what the Torah says. So there's a new Tucker Carlson podcast that just came out a few days ago. And he had somebody, I believe, from Congress on the show, and he's leaking a bunch of things that I don't think would ever come out of a politician. But in this podcast, one of the things he talked about is how there was like these UFO sightings from underwater. That there is things under the water moving at 200 miles an hour, which is basically impossible. Now, anytime anyone from government sits here and says UFO, UAP, I immediately know what they're covering up. These are jinn. There is no such thing as UFOs. Aliens are not on this planet. But what I find personally shocking about this information is my uncle used to tell me about this. I have an uncle that spent 15 years in the Air Force and he used to talk about it all the time whenever he would see these things coming out of the ocean. And he would try to tell everybody for years and years, talking about how these things are coming out of the ocean. This is the base. This is where they live. This is where they reside. This is where they come out of. Now, what's even scarier is NASA and the government have been trying to contact these jinn that are underwater. We see this in Sea Lab 1, 2, and 3. But that is a very long conversation. So on the 15th, I have a whole YouTube video dropping for everybody so you guys can see. I'm going to break down everything from start to finish. The devil is for sure in the ocean, and NASA, including the government, has been trying to contact them for a long time, and I believe they already have. This isn't a conspiracy.
Sure.
I have real evidence to back this up. You guys are going to be blown away.
This is the true story of the Vatican, and it's purely horrifying. In the 1970s, Father Michael Harris, the Vatican's chief exorcist, faced a case unlike any other. A young woman named Anna was believed to be possessed. Her voice spoke ancient languages she couldn't have known. Strange symbols burned themselves into her skin. During the exorcism, Anna screamed something that made Michael freeze. She said, "The church knows, they've always known. You're just a pawn." Michael couldn't shake her words. He began to investigate and uncovered whispers about a secret sect called the Order of Darkness. This group, tied to forbidden rituals, was said to use demonic forces to maintain their power. Even worse, the symbol on Anna's skin matched one in the Vatican's oldest records, on documents connected to exorcists who mysteriously disappeared. When Michael brought this to his superiors, they told him to stop digging. Some truths, they said, are better left buried. But Michael didn't listen. He wrote everything in his journal, determined to reveal the truth. Then one night, Anna disappeared from the church, under heavy security. Michael vanished too. The Vatican claimed he left for personal reasons. Weeks later, his journal was found, left on an altar in a sealed chapel. The last entry read, "The darkness is here. They know I've seen it. Pray for my soul." But there was one more discovery. Hidden in the journal's spine was a photograph. It showed Michael in his study, but behind him stood a shadowy figure with burning eyes. To this day, no one knows who or what it was.
I think the Exorcist movie was based on this.
If you were the fallen angels and you came down to Earth and you just got your butts handed to you by Michael and the other angels, like the first thing you're doing is plotting your revenge.
What is that one Transformers movie? Isn't it called like Revenge of the Fallen?
Yeah, it is. I think personally, if you've ever seen a quantum computer, if you've ever seen, they are not normal. They are not human. No. They are otherworldly. Like, there's no doubt that it's fallen tech. So what I think that in order to figure out how they could defeat God, what they realized they had to do is they had to run some simulations, and they had to run as many as they could at one time, just like in the Avengers
Endgame.
Figure out what the
That's a good theory.
Possible solutions were. So I think that they had to make a bunch of quantum computers, but in order to do that, they had to get people to go all over the world and excavate, get the metals.
They need vibranium and adamantium.
They need all kinds of stuff to make these quantum computers. And so I think that what they did was they made a crap ton of quantum computers to run a bunch of different simulations to figure out how they could defeat God. And there's a possibility that we're all in one of those.
Man, my brain just fell out of my head. But you can defeat God.
It's in Ohio. And Fort Ancient is about 250,000 tons of earth. It's not as big as Cahokia. It's 3.5 miles of continuous earthen walls. It's built on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar metonic cycle. It's charged. Native Americans had nothing to do with this. So if you were going to take the 250,000 tons of earth and put those in dump trucks, park the dump trucks end to end, 200 miles of dump trucks.
Wow.
I'm not making this up.
We're told by historians that it was just Native Americans that did this.
Nonsense. The thing is, the Native Americans say over and over again, we didn't do this.
Yeah.
It was here when we got here. So who do we believe? The First Nation people who were there and saw this? We've got it on the record. People coming into the Ohio Valley going, who did this? And natives going, we don't know. It was here when we got here. But all that's a managed agenda because it goes against the biblical prophetic narrative. It points back to a supernatural worldview, which the Darwinists don't like and the archaeologists don't like because they've got everything in a nice little bow.
There's Serpent Mound.
You gotta watch this encounter. I went into the heart of New York City to confront darkness head on. I spoke face to face with the woman known as the Queen of New York, the cult leader of La Santa Muerte. This wasn't just a conversation. God opened the door for me to step into her temple, her home, where she performs demonic rituals and preach the gospel. Watch this.
Dios me ama tal y como yo soy. Dios me acepta tal y como yo soy. Dios me creó a como yo soy.
Dices que crees en Dios, ¿verdad? Sí. Si nos morimos, aunque seamos buenas personas, un pecado nos separa de un Dios santo. Mira como aquí, ¿verdad? En el mundo hay ley. Di que tú eres una buena persona toda tu vida, pero al último de tu vida mataste a alguien y estás enfrente del juez y el juez te va a decir, te vas a ir a la silla eléctrica. Y luego tú le dices, yo le di a la gente que necesita ayuda y pregúntale a todos, yo fui una buena persona. Tú no estás aquí porque eres una buena persona. Tú quebraste mi ley y nunca recibiste el pago que yo te quise dar. Nosotros no podemos pagar con nuestras cosas buenas. So, Jesús hizo algo para que tú no tengas que ir al infierno. ¿Sabes lo que hizo?
Sí.
¿Qué es lo que hizo?
Amen, brother.
Su vida.
Sí, ¿podemos orar?
Sí, claro que sí.
Gracias por tu amor. En el nombre de Jesús.
Hallelujah.
Amén.
Praying. The seed was planted.
Let's get into reading the Lacerda file. I certify that the following is the absolute truth and no work of fiction. These are parts of a transcript of an interview I've made with a non-human and reptilian being in December of 1999. Folks, I would just kindly ask you, suspend your disbelief. We know that this is probably going to read as fiction, but check it at the door. Let's have some fun. Question. First of all, who are you? Are you an extraterrestrial species? Or can your origin be found on this planet? Answer. As you can see with your own eyes, I'm not a human being like you. I'm a female reptile being, belonging to a very old reptilian race. We are the native Terrans, and we live on that planet since millions of years. We are mentioned in your religious writings, like your Christian Bible, and many of the ancient human tribes were aware of our presence and worshipped us as gods. For example, the Egyptians and the Inca, and many other old tribes. Your Christian religion has misunderstood our role in your creation, so we are mentioned as evil serpents in your writings. This is wrong. Your species has evolved in a naturally completely impossible speed within just 2-3 million years. Your creation was artificial and done by genetic engineering, but not by us, but by an alien species. If you ask me if I'm an extraterrestrial, I must answer no. We are native Terrans. We originate on this planet. It's in fact our planet, not yours. It was never yours. That's a crazy way to answer that question, to be like, oh, yeah, we're not extraterrestrial. We're from here, but we were here before you. This is our planet. You are invading our planet currently.
I'm convinced this is just try to separate people from God.
Unless you can become exceedingly wealthy over the next 10 years, you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose between remaining within this system or trying to build sovereign communities that have built their own sort of independent ecosystems. You have to understand that fighting or reversing this trajectory is not a realistic option. As long as you're still placing your hopes in the likes of a Mamdani or any other elected official, in my opinion, you're just in denial. You're in denial about what is happening and what's going to happen. And being in this sort of denial is going to leave you with no options. You're going to have no option but to comply. The only thing that you can realistically do is actually try to walk away from the system. And that's not as daunting as it might seem. I mean, we see these weird cult groups popping up all the time in the United States. And they literally build self-sufficient ecosystems for their cults. Well, there's no reason why you can't do that, minus the bizarre cultish, doomsday strangeness. I mean, did you know that a mid-sized Amish community comprised of, say, 300 households with their bakeries and their farms and their dairy and their what have you, construction, contracting companies and so forth, they generate, on average, something like $21 million a year. That's roughly $70,000 to $80,000 annually per household. Well, you don't have to be a Quaker to do that. You don't have to belong to a cult that's waiting for the mothership to do that. You could just do that because it makes sense.
Ooh.
You understand me? I mean, if mentally ill people in a cult, mentally ill people who believe that some guy in a tracksuit is a prophet, if they can collectively come together and build self-sufficient communities, well, there's no reason why normal, healthy people can't do it. You absolutely can.
People have no idea how bad things in their world are about to come.
Did you know this about Lucifer?
Lucifer is actually not his name. Lucifer is a translation of his name. Because all the angels have El in their name. They have God. Michael, Gabriel, El. Who is Lucifer? Lucifer is a translation. If you check the Hebrew, his name is Hallel, which Aramaic is halal. It means crescent moon. What are most of your food products today? Halal. Whatever this spirit is going to own the food chain.
You won't be able to buy or sell.
And none of you are going to be able to buy or sell unless you got the mark.
Unless you bear the mark.
The name or the number of the beast.
Microchips implanted in your hand.
Will you be paying with your palm today?
I've just been chipped myself.
It's the mark of the beast.
I live in Indonesia where 80% of the people are Muslims. They have to label most of the food with that mark, halal, and in the restaurant too. So, I'll try not to buy them.
The most possessed human in the world is probably Beyonce.
Right before I performed, I raised my hands up, and it was kind of the first time I felt something else come into me, and I knew that was going to be my coming out night.
So she publicly admits to be possessed by a demon, and she calls it an alter ego like Sasha fears. Anytime you see people talk about this, how they have this alter ego, and whenever they put on this alter ego, they accomplish crazy things, this is demonic possession. Not only that, she has the most bizarre lyrics I've ever seen. I've broke down a lot of celebrities on here, but I've never seen one say this. So she has this poem from Lemonade, and there's this thing called Denial, and she talks about how she plugged her menses from pages of the Holy Bible, meaning she stopped her menstrual cycle by using pages of a Bible. I have not seen anything more disrespectful to religion than that. I really don't know how much worse it can get. Now, she also has this song called Church Girl, where she basically just sits there and tries to convince church girls to go twerk inside clubs. This is a full demon. I don't even know how much more I have to explain. I'm sure you guys get this. And this is what the Illuminati really is. And I know Illuminati is not the actual name and term, and there's a lot more to that subject, but using it as a figure of speech so everybody understands what I'm talking about, what these people do is they have to get possessed. This is what the Kabbalistic puppeteers at the top of media do. You come to them, you want to be famous, you want to be big, you want to be rich, you want to be loved, you want to be worshipped. All you have to do is go a part of these rituals, put a demon inside yourself, and they'll give you anything you want.
I forgot her name, but she says she got famous by her team sacrificing Aliyah. They planned her tragic accident.